Hi, this is Bernard from English OTP, and today we're going to be having a look at crooked letter again, and it's going to be specifically an overview of the topics that the novel actually covers. So, in the last presentation, we had a look at crooked letter basics. I'm going to put a link in the description and also a link in the video. You can click on that if you haven't seen that one, or if you want to have a look at it again, because it does help to understand this video. So today we're going to be having a look at topics. I'm going to give you an overview of the topics in crooked letter, and in upcoming videos I'm going to be talking about specific individual topics in crooked letter. So before we start talking about the individual topics, I just want to say a couple of things about how literature actually deals with topics. So, the first point is that topics a piece of literature can discuss are manifold and often ambiguous. This is, this sort of comes from how literature is constructed. Because usually literature is not constructed around a single topic. So a novelist or a screenwriter who, writes obviously a screenplay, something for a movie, for example, will not approach his work that he's about to write from a single topic. So, but rather maybe from an idea that he has of different characters that he can find interesting, or of a general story that he thinks is interesting and worth telling. Of course, there are pieces of literature or films that may be constructed from a specific topic. Let's take American History X, for example. I don't know if you guys know the film, but it's a very good film about racism in the US. And I think it's still worth watching today, although it's really a couple of years old already. But, you could say that this film is specifically written from the perspective of, or from the topic of racism. So the main topic that film deals with is racism. But along the way, there are a lot of other topics which are also in the film, for example, prison life or friendship, those kind of things. So there's never only one topic in a piece of literature or in a film, in fiction in general. So that's why I wrote down here manifold and ambiguous, because sometimes it's not quite sure which topics are actually in a piece of literature. And this is also the case because, second point, in many cases, a topic that speaks to readers may be one that they bring to the book themselves. And let's use an example from crooked letter here. So, for example, if you yourself happen to be an outsider in your peer group, or if a friend of yours is more of an outsider in his peer group or in his or her family, and you will be dealing with this topic of otherness or being an outsider much more than other people. So then if you sit down and if you read crooked letter, this topic will be very prevalent for you. You could maybe, you could sort of discuss or interact with this topic much more than a different reader would, just because you bring this topic to the novel yourself. So again, topics are often ambiguous and manifold, and the second point here is that you as a reader also bring topics to the novel that other people won't really see. And the third point, and that's a more general point for crooked letter, is that through its significant settings and round characters, crooked letter actually covers a large number of topics. And quickly jumping back to our basics, if you have a look at the settings, for example, over here, the settings themselves already bring so many topics into the novel that we can see that this novel is really rich in topics. So we're talking about Chabot, Mississippi, so American South, so 1979, so not even 10 years after segregation was ended. And so we have this topic of racism in there, but we also have Chabot, Mississippi, so a very rural place, not urban. So we have things like isolation and loneliness in there, right? So as I said, so the topic itself, the settings here, brings so many topics to the novel, and that makes it extremely rich. So, and it's not only that. You can see that I said the characters themselves, they're really round. They have so many different facets in them that they also bring a lot of different topics to the book. Okay, so I will quickly give you an overview of the 5 most important topics that I have identified in this novel, and say 1 or 2 things about each of them. And I think that will sort of complete this overview of topics in Crooked Letter. For me, one of the most important topics is responsibility. So in how far are the characters responsible for their actions, and in how far do they have to face this responsibility and take responsibility for their own actions. We have people like Silas, of course, who is silent about having met Cindy after Larry sees her for the last time, and him largely being responsible for Larry's life going downhill even more. We have, but also people like Wallace Stringfellow, where the book itself says, well, in how far is he actually responsible for his actions, having grown up in the way that he did. So that's one topic which I think is very prevalent. The next topic that is connected to responsibility, obviously, is guilt and penance. If you do see that you are responsible for negative effects, for example, in Larry's life, then how does Silas here, how does he own up to it? How does he deal with his guilt? And how does he try to overcome his guilt and maybe make amends for what he's done? The next topic, again, strongly connected to Larry and Silas, of course, is the topic of friendship, and connected to friendship, of course, belonging, because belonging and friendship are intricately tied anyway. So if you have a friend, or if you have a group of friends, it automatically means that you belong. And in the novel, we have this tension between who is whose friend, what does friendship mean, in how far do the different characters need others to belong, to feel that they belong. So obviously for the Abitur, this is a very central topic, this topic of belonging, and friendship, of course, intricately tied to it. Tied to that topic as well, belonging and friendship, is otherness and prejudice. So if you don't belong, then you're sort of directly, you're outside of the norm. You're this other, and you will experience prejudice. And we have a lot of otherness and prejudice here. We have it in, segregation being ended, black and white kids going to school together. We have otherness in here. We have prejudice in here, but we also have these, outsiders like Larry, who very strongly represent the other in society, the strange, something that we do not know. And, what comes in here is, of course, also xenophobia. And this is strongly connected to the last of these 5 topics that I want to discuss in detail in the coming videos, and that's racism. So, and this again is really strongly tied to the setting, to not only the time, but strongly tied to the place. And we can see that racism might, change, but it's still there in 2008. So, I'll also give you a list of a couple of other important topics that I think the novel discusses, actually pretty brilliantly. So, of course, you're welcome to post questions down in the comment section, to maybe give the video a thumbs up if you like it, and more videos will be coming soon. For now, I think this is a good overview of the many topics that Crooked Letter discusses, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next video.